Hey, this is Brad, and I'm here with Drew again with the same iMac Pro and another one. Here we're actually at the annual American Professional Football Draft, using copyright or trying to stay away from trademarks. Anyway, I'm going to let Drew actually talk to you through our setup that we've got here, and I think you'll find it helpful.
Okay, everybody, what we're driving here is a pretty big LED setup across the stage. I'll give you a peek here. Essentially, we're driving four 4K outputs on each machine. One of these machines is set up as a main, one of them is set up as a backup. Essentially, we've got a large 4K screen here made up of a top strip and a bottom strip. If you watched on television, you might have seen the part right behind people. That would have been the strip at the bottom, but the window up top is where we're playing back most normal video content. We've got two side strips, which we've actually arrayed in a square because that's the way they render the content for us. We've got a left side and a right side, and they're broken up into panels exactly how they're broken up as outputs. And then we've got four large columns here, as well as a very tiny output for the hat pedestal where a player would select his hat after being selected. So all of that is arrayed and mapped here. And then what we've done is we've laid out all our cues on a per team basis. So every team gets its own playlist with its own set of looks. So for example, the Chicago team here has looks for being on the clock, pick is in, all sorts of special looks. And the reason we've done it that way with playlists and very specific orders for these things is because we're driving both of these machines in sync. So this machine is where our main operator sits, and we've got some Stream Decks, very handy triggering mechanisms set up. And you can see that we've got sort of per team selections here. So you could choose Green Bay, and it sends the machine right up to the Green Bay playlist. And it actually is firing both machines in sync. So what we're using here is PVP's built-in HTTP calls. It's a protocol that allows you to select certain cues, certain playlists, fire them all. And actually, when using something like Octopus, which we've got set up for all those controls, it's firing those HTTP commands in sync. So actually, it's driving both machines at the same time. So if he fires a button, you'll see both machines jump to the playlist, and then he can fire any one of those up to 10 cues they've got per team. He can fire it, and it fires on both machines and goes live where it needs to go. So we've also got a third machine set up here. This one is actually buried away in a tech room up at the top press box, driving a third LED wall strip that's behind the audience. That one is also being triggered off those same HTTP commands that Octopus is spitting out. So overall, this gives us both a main and a backup that we can hot swap to, as well as driving another screen. So in all, we're triggering about 8K worth of content. And been doing it these machines have been on for about 4 days straight now without issues. And so if you watched on television and saw any of the LED backgrounds, this is what was doing it. Anything else that we want to?
Yeah, so we're actually we're actually breaking these out into 12 separate 1080p feeds
as well
from
as
these two
one
machines,
4K feed.
and one 4K feed. The 4K feed is for the center. The other content that we're not actually playing, all of this is for the motion graphics for the teams, for the pick is in, for they're on the clock, those kinds of things. The graphics that we're not playing are some of the anytime a pick actually happens, when they actually show the player profiles and that kind of thing. That's all coming from a separate source, and all of that is again automated through UDP or TCP commands to actually trigger the various switchers that we have in place here. But it's pretty much all automated. So Chris, the operator that happens to be behind the camera right now, he's actually pressing buttons here as opposed to using the mouse for the entire show. So everything is actually automated, and it's a very fluid show. Far different from a lot of the other productions that we actually work out where you actually have a defined cue sheet. Things are changing rapidly all the time. So the flexibility of being able to go to a different team whenever they actually make a trade or whatnot.
So we could very easily, if a trade happened, we could easily, jump to a different team and fire their look without even thinking about it. And if they were to trade, we're 2 clicks away from being on an entirely different look for the whole stage. So it allows us to respond quickly to changes in the show without having to build timelines and kind of make a whole full scripted in order set of cues.
Yeah. So this is actually our third draft that PvP has been involved with, and we're honored to be a part of it. The draft has actually been for most of its existence has been more of a sort of business meeting, and it's only recently that it's become more of a public entertainment spectacle. And so yeah, when you have two different network television stations that are actually covering it, it becomes a big production, and that has just grown over the last several years. And so this is certainly the largest stage that they've ever had, and we're really just excited to be a part of the production. So it's been a fun few days.